We'll go ahead and get started. So what we're going to be talking about is traditional masonry, historic masonry in particular. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about historic mortars. We'll also talk about some historic treatments that were applied to historic building as well. So I've often found that there's nothing worse than the speaker who addresses an audience that is genuinely interested in the topic in which the speaker has been asked to discuss, only to find that slide after slide is nothing but text. Not only does this create a problem for the speaker, because 9 times out of 10 the audience can read the slide faster than the speaker can vocalize it, but also the audience has no sense of discussion. So, although this lecture does include some written text, I feel that it would be a great disservice and quite possibly an insult to merely stand here in front of you reading slide after slide after slide. I will also refrain from using any hard-to-read colors, font types, or any special effects that may distract from their discourse. So in order to not break this unspoken covenant between speaker and listener, promise that I will not do this at all during the following PowerPoint. Now that we've got that out of the way. If you had asked me 10 years ago, how do you make historic mortar, I would have given you this recipe right here. You take sand, you beat it with lime putty, and that is a historic mortar. You can point, you can lay, you can do all kinds of things with brick and stone with it. That couldn't be farther from the truth. These are just a few examples right here of the various mortars that are used in historic masonry. The first that we'll be talking about are these clay mortars. What you do is you combine clay and water together to form a malleable mix. Add a bit of quicklime in there that will help dry the matrix, and bed stone with it. We'll be talking a little more in detail about it in a few minutes. The second type of mortar we'll be talking about are these hot lime mortars. I would say that the majority of our historic brick buildings that are built particularly in the mid-Atlantic, here in the United States, were these hot lime mortars, not to be confused with lime putty mortars. The third mortar we'll talk about are lime putty mortars. They did exist. They're certainly out there. We will also talk about hydrated lime mortars, basically mortars that are made with a lime powder versus a lime paste or a lime liquid. And then finally, we'll spend a little time talking about natural spent mortars, which are kind of becoming a little more well-known in historic preservation today. Really kind of had a re-emergence over the past couple of years. So, clay. Clay construction in the colonial period. Primarily, you're going to find clay in historic stonework, not so much with brick. Particularly in areas of kind of Piedmont, Virginia, where you're too far away from the ocean to be able to gather oyster shells to burn for make lime, but then you're also too far away from the mountains where they're really good lime deposits. You see these types of mortars being used kind of pre-colonial, right when the first settlers started to settle here in the States. Up until about the Civil War, you start to see it peter out around the 1830s or so, although you do see it later than that. Almost always, these clay mortars were pointed with a lime mortar. What little bit of lime you might have, you would have used to protect that soft clay mortar from the atmosphere. And then the whole thing is coated with a protective coating of lime wash. This is a chimney here. This building was built in the 1790s, built out of a clay mortar. Yes, a clay mortar, then pointed with a lime mortar and then a coat of lime wash over the whole thing. It's been sitting there for well over 200 years now, so feeling just fine. Unfortunately, the lighting is not the greatest in here. You see a couple of little blips of white throughout the matrix of the so there you go. That looks great. That's your bits of quicklime there. You also here you can see the pointing. You also have a bit of lime wash over top of that, and you can see the clay mortar back there. Again, same principle. This of course is a ruin, but clay mortar, lime mortar over top of it, and then a bit of lime wash. And basically what you're doing, you're trying to protect the bedding material. That clay is not going to hold up to the elements So you want to put a more durable material in front of it than by coating the whole thing. And in a lime wash, you're providing multiple layers of defense. And we're going to be talking about these levels of defense quite a bit throughout this talk. Lime putty and other airlines. This is the lime cycle. How many of y'all might be familiar with the lime cycle in the room? Handful of y'all? No? Okay, the lime cycle is a diagram which effectively shows what happens when you make and use lime. So it all starts off with limestone or calcium carbonate. You can use anything that's got a high calcium carbonate content, oyster shells, marble, marl, any of these materials can be used to make lime. And what you do with that limestone is you burn it. The burning does two things. It drives off the carbon dioxide from the stone. It also drives off the moisture from the stone. And what you're left with is a material that we call quicklime, or calcium oxide. Calcium oxide is about half the weight, where we've lost that moisture and lost that CO2 from the stone, but still comes out roughly the same size and shape. It's a bit chalkier in texture, quite light looking in comparison to the stone. And quicklime, to be made or put into a usable form, has to be hydrated in some form. Now, we call in lime that hydration process slaking, lime slaking, which you may have heard of. Some people use the term slacking. I've never come across any reference that that's the correct pronunciation. So slaking, much like slaking your thirst. Quicklime is a very thirsty material. It loves water, so it'll take it in any way you can get it. If you leave a piece of quicklime out on a table for a couple of days, it's going to absorb moisture from the atmosphere and start to break down. To make a lime putty, we would add a lot of moisture to that quicklime. Exothermic reaction takes place. It gets hot. You'll see that in just a second. Heat's generated, and the whole stuff reduces down. The whole mess reduces down to form a lime putty. Now, this is your lime. I mean, if anywhere on this diagram really shows what we consider as lime, that's the material that we're talking about here. Now you take that lime putty or that hydrated lime, mix it with sand, mix it with additional moisture or water as necessary to form a mortar or a plaster. You can reduce the whole the lime putty down to make a lime wash or a white wash, another form of paint, and then you use it. Now during the using process, water and moisture evaporates out of the material, and then carbon dioxide actually re-enters in and reverts the compound back to a form of calcium carbonate. So it kind of goes full cycle. This absorption or reabsorption of carbon dioxide is what makes lime a far greener building material to work with than cement. Cement, of course, there's a tremendous amount of energy that goes into the production of cement, but also during the lime burning process in cement production, you don't get hardly any carbon dioxide reabsorption. So you have a lot of CO2 output in cement production versus the production of lime. So this is our little lime kiln in Virginia Lime Works, tucked away in the woods in Amherst County. We burn using only wood as a fuel source. Wood's a fantastic material. It has a certain amount of moisture within that when it goes up through the kiln, it creates a bit of pressure, which is very conducive to lime burning. You also get these nice long flames that kind of encompass the whole area of stone and really produces a very wide burning zone. So wood, not only a traditional material, but a very good material. We still prefer to burn with wood. Of course, you can burn with coal, you can burn with gas. Over in England, they were burning with peat and other traditional fuels. So, really doesn't matter what you burn with, although I would say that it does matter greatly what temperature you're burning at. The burning temperature of lime is very, very important. There is a very good zone that produces, a burning zone that produces what we call a traditional building